Okay, hello everybody. It's 7 o'clock and I think we're about ready to start. There's a few more people coming in now, but I think if we do the introductions and then we can get going, and hopefully that will give people an opportunity to join us over the next few minutes. I'm Frances Meek and I'm Education Services Manager at the British Nutrition Foundation. And I have my colleague Orla Condon, who is also on the call, and she'll be can answer any messages or any comments or questions that you've got in the chat box. I've also got with me Roy Ballum and also Sam Booth. Roy and Sam, if you'd like to join us. I'm
Good
absolutely
evening.
delighted to have both Roy and Sam with us. They've both been absolutely fundamental in getting us to this point with the Oak National Academy new curriculum for cooking and nutrition. Sam is the subject lead. Tell me if I got that wrong, Sam, but subject lead for design technology for Oak National Curriculum. And Roy Ballum is somebody that I've worked with for many years. And he has been particularly instrumental in helping to write the new curriculum for Oak National Academy, and also as our lesson creator over the last few months. So there's no two better people to have on this webinar to actually kickstart the training that we're doing around what we're calling Oak Food Curriculum to Classrooms. Each of us is going to do a little bit, and Roy's going to be driving the presentation. We are actually recording the webinar, so if you wanted to look back at it again at another time, you can, or if you wanted to share it with colleagues, it will be available for you on the Food Effective Life website. Roy and Sam, would you like to just say hello very quickly, and then we can move on?
Do you want me to go first, Roy? Yeah, hello.
Yeah, why
hello,
don't you go?
Absolutely brilliant to be here this evening. Absolutely fantastic that we've got so many people involved as well. So yeah, I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, and likewise, thank you, Francis, for the invite. And I'm really pleased that you could hold these 10 different training sessions, because what I think they do is to really bring the Oak curriculum to life, and it can really show people what's been produced and how it can fit into their lessons and also save them time.
Great, that's fantastic. And the other person actually that is on the webinar as well is Fiona Mather, who was the subject reviewer from Oak National Academy from sort of a subject expert point of view. So Fiona was also very, very involved in what we're doing. So thank you very much, Fiona, and thank you for joining us tonight. So shall we start then, Roy? If you can move on to the next slide, that'd be fantastic. Okay, just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. As I mentioned, the webinar is being recorded and will be available over the next couple of days on the Food Effective Life website. If you've got any questions, please do type them in the chat box. Maybe Roy, Sam, or I, or Orla can comment on them, respond to them as we're going along, or if not, we'll do them at the end. And there will also be at the end a very short online evaluation, which will be very grateful if you complete for us. It's very important for us and for our funders, who are the All Saints Educational Trust, to be able to evaluate the events, to know what we're doing well, what could be improved, and actually what the impact of our training and also the resources is having on teachers and their pupils. So the QR code is on the screen now, but we'd be grateful if you actually completed it at the end. And once you've completed it, you will be given a link to the Food Effective Life website where you can download a certificate which you can add your name to, print off, and keep for your records. Okay, thank you, Roy. So just a little bit around what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to do a little bit of a welcome, which we've done, hopefully, and then thinking about the purpose of the Oak National Academy and also the new food curriculum that we've put together for you. We're going to explore the key principles, and Sam's going to be particularly doing that, thinking about what the key principles are from an Oak National Academy point of view. Roy's going to look at the curriculum overview and the structure, and give an overview of the lessons and the materials available. We're going to think about practical guidance and a demonstration. So Roy's going to actually go onto the website and show you where you can find things, which I think will be really useful, because you'll actually be able to go straight to the things that you want when you get the chance. And then we're going to think about how you can implement the resources and the lessons in your school. And then we're going to just talk a little bit around the next steps, and then some of the additional resources that we've created as the British Nutrition Foundation to support your learning around the OAK curriculum, and also your sort of CPD going forward. So we'll do that at the end. Okay, thanks, Roy. Right, so now I'm going to hand over to Sam, and he's going to tell you a little bit around OAK National Academy. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Francis. Hopefully you can all hear me. I've put my camera on as well, so you can see me as well. So yeah, as Francis said, my name is Sam Booth, and I'm the subject lead for design and technology at OAK National Academy. That also covers cooking and nutrition. From an OAK National Academy perspective, we're absolutely delighted that our partners, the British Nutrition Foundation, have decided to run these sessions to really allow you to get the most out of this ambitious curriculum, which we obviously think is fantastic, and we can't wait for you to get your hands on it. OAK's purpose. We've had the same purpose since day one, when Matt Hood, our previous CEO, started OAK National Academy in the pandemic, and that is to improve pupil outcomes and close the disadvantage gap by supporting teachers to teach and pupils to access a high quality curriculum. I think I probably said that about 150 times now, but we think we can do that by providing you with really high quality curriculum resources, everything you could possibly need in your classrooms, and also all the thinking behind that through our curriculum sequences that you will find on our website, which I'm sure Roy will go through. And we really think we can do that. The idea is we save you time. That's what Roy has already said. That is what I'm very passionate about, if we can save you time. I still talk to teachers now, and they still think we are a pandemic response. We've actually just released quite a few videos on our socials trying to dispel that myth that we are no longer a pandemic response, but that's what we were set up as. But when we came out of that pandemic, we wanted to be teacher-led. So we asked teachers, what do you want from OAK now? We've got all this knowledge and experience of developing educational resources. So what do you want us to do now? And the overwhelming response was that teachers wanted high quality resources, and also the thinking behind that. So we became an independent curriculum body. We're still funded by the Department for Education, but we get to go and work with partners and make the curriculum that we want to make. So about 3 years ago, we started working with partners. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. Why would we? There are loads of organizations out there for all of our different subjects that have the expertise and the brilliance to be able to bring a curriculum to life, such as the British Nutrition Foundation. So about 18 months ago, I started working with Francis and Roy on this wonderful curriculum. And that, of course, brings us to today, where you get the opportunity to really dive in and have a great look at it, and hopefully start using these resources to save you time in your classrooms. Next slide, please, Roy. Thank you. So I'm not going to read out all these, but every single year, as part of our contract with the Department for Education, we have to do an independent impact evaluation to make sure that we are doing what we say we're doing and that we are saving teachers time. So this one is from last November. So before we'd even released any of our resources for all our new subjects, including cooking and nutrition. And the idea behind this is to show you that we are starting to have an impact on teachers' lives to save them time. And most of these numbers are increasing in terms of the impact that we are having. So we are really pleased with that. And the fact that 1 in 3 teachers in the UK are now using OAK resources in some way, that's absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure that'll be even more once we get all these new subjects out there, which is great. So the main thing I'm going to talk to you about, though, is the next slide. So these are our OAK curriculum principles. These are the foundations of every single subject that we have at OAK. And this is what you will find built into all of our curriculum resources. So the first one is that we are knowledge and vocabulary rich. That does not mean that skills are important. They are there as well. They are very important. But we have that knowledge up front in our lessons. And you will find that in all of our lessons, including our practical cooking lessons as well. We are also vocabulary rich. Okay, we highlight the vocabulary we use in lessons through our keywords, but what we also do is we've mapped that across our curriculum, so we make sure we build that vocabulary over time. We think very carefully about that. We are sequenced and coherent. You will see our curriculum plans and you will see how we have sequenced that, not just from lesson to lesson and unit to unit, but also across year groups and also across key stages and also across phases from primary to secondary. We thought really carefully about that. And the fantastic thing about that is it means you can trust that we've thought about all those aspects of a curriculum so well. And I've seen some of the documentation that that's going to be shared with you from Roy and Francis today, and that's really going to showcase that thinking behind this curriculum. We are flexible. Every single thing that you can download from our website, you can adapt, you can edit to suit your needs. We thought very carefully about this, and in a lot of our resources, and I'm sure in the next 10 sessions that you're going to get, we will explain how you can adapt resources to suit your needs, because of course every single school is different, every class is different, so we make sure everything is flexible. Accessibility is a real key part of what we've done as well. So again, we think really hard about our curriculum resources and how accessible they are. We use things like Myers' theory of multimedia learning, cognitive load theory, dual coding. All of those things are embedded within every single one of our resources. Even the fonts we use and the colors we use in our resources, we thought very carefully about. The diversity principle, again, is a real key principle for us, and that is showcased in a number of different ways in this curriculum, but probably most in the brilliant diverse recipes, 60+ recipes that you're going to have access to, which are just absolutely beautiful and showcase that principle amazingly. And then finally, evidence informed. So our curriculum, as we said, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We are working with partners. It's a partnership. It is built upon the British Nutrition Foundation's Food, a Fact of Life education program. That's a mouthful to say at 7:15 at night, but it's built on that. You will see all the thinking and the evidence that has gone into those wonderful resources that you will obviously find on the British Nutrition Foundation's website, and you will see those coming out in our resources as well. So all of these principles, they're all part of what we do, and you will see it in all the resources that you have access to. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm now going to pass you over to the experts, but I really hope you enjoy these sessions. I hope you enjoy using these resources, and some way I'll make sure you get my email address, because we are really looking forward to the feedback that we get when you start using these resources. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic, Sam. And I love hearing you every time you talk about it, particularly around the principles, because I think that's really important and they have been so carefully thought through. So hopefully you will see those, as Sam said, throughout the resources that Roy's going to take you through now. So Roy, I'll hand over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Francis. So a quick overview of the curriculum and the lessons. So as Sam has mentioned, we went for a fully sequenced and coherent curriculum plan. So from year 1 right the way through to year 9, looking at that progression, but making sure it was flexible, accessible and diverse. So I'm really pleased that we did this from year 1 through to year 9, because there's been a lot of thinking that have been done for you, and hopefully you can use bits of this in your own planning too. So all that planned teaching from year 1 to through year 9, and then progressive and connected, but also they're also standalone, which you can imagine was a bit of a challenge. That how can you make things connected, but also a teacher could just reach in, take one lesson and teach that and be successful. So that's what we hope that we've done. This is a quick overview of the different units that are available. The large box at the bottom, you can see with the words that you can't read. This is just, I've just wanted to put an example in of the planning work that we did, and this is Key Stage 3. And what this does is to show all the individual lessons, all the lesson titles, the outcomes, the learning, the key learning that's going to happen. And then we've also put in the direct links too. And I think this is a great document because it really helps to condense what the learning is at Key Stage 3. And of course, we've done this for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 as well. So we're really pleased of this information that we can provide to you. So in total, there are actually 108 lessons coming out of the Oak Academy Cooking and Nutrition curriculum, and that's 12 for each year group. And they're all delivered in units, and there are 4 units per year. And all lessons and resources are flexible. So you only use what you want. And I think that's really key. Being a teacher, you are in control. You know your classroom, you know your kids when you're teaching too. And it covers the national curriculum, D&T, cooking and nutrition. So not just covers what it currently says, but we also did a bit of future proofing too, looking forward to the future and really tried to unpack what those sometimes only 2, 3 or 4 sentences at Key Stage 3 really mean and how you can teach that effectively. So the overview of the lessons. So we've got the main subject content, which we would expect to be healthy eating, cooking, and where food comes from. And these really are threads right the way through the curriculum. But there are additional threads as well that go through, and these are completely weaved in, supporting the progression. So on the right-hand side, you can see a screenshot here, and there's a little segment there called Highlight a Thread, and you can see the different threads that are put there. And you can click on those and it will show you whereabouts those threads happen in each year group, in each lesson as you go through. And these include things like consumer awareness, food culture, food hygiene and safety, so important, but obviously sometimes not referenced in the national curriculum. All things around food origins and provenance, for example, as well as going through to things like sustainability, climate change, and the science of food too. So there's a lot of thinking that's been done. It's not just about healthy eating, cooking, and where food comes from. There's so much more when we're looking at cooking and nutrition education. So in each year then, there are the 4 units, and progression, as I said, is built through that year, but also over the key stages as well. And as Sam's mentioned, over the phases too, from primary through to secondary. So for example, when I mean that, if we look at a primary example, and I'm looking at the different units, it might start off with a unit in 1 year about let's start cooking, move on to cooking without heat, cooking around the world, cooking for life, creative cooking, and cooking showcase. So even the words that we picked for the unit titles and the lessons, we really did think a lot about, and we're hoping even some of these titles do give a glimpse into the progression going forward. And in each year group, these comprise different things. So there's a unit around food preparation and cooking. So there are 3 lessons there. There's a unit around healthy eating, nutrition generally. Again, another 3 lessons. One around food origins and provenance, and another one which is really about sort of the social context and dimension of food, which is so important because food is really, well, as Francis knows, it really is a fact of life. So let's have a look at the lessons then. So each lesson has a slide deck, so you can get that as a PowerPoint or Google slide. So there are 108 of these. Imagine such a rich resource that you can get. And the slide deck provides all the details for the lesson, broken into different learning cycles, which help you not to overload pupils, which Sam has referred to. And slides also start with the pupil outcome, go through some keywords, and they end with a summary. So it's really been well thought through. And throughout the slide deck, there are things like check for understanding. So just checking back, do pupils understand those last 1, 2, 3 slides, and giving support too. And also it helps to support pupils' retention. And at the end of each of these learning cycles, where we've broken down the learning, there's a task provided, and this task also comes on the worksheet, which you can download. And as I mentioned, there's a summary at the end. So you can see here the lesson here on making yakisoba noodles. There's the highlight slide, outcome, keywords, the different lesson outlines, different slides as you go through. And we're really pleased that, again, it looks very simple, it's very clean, and it's editable. So you can just use what you want. And that editability, I think, is so important. And you could then use the whole slide deck if you want to, or perhaps just one slide and put it into an existing lesson. So it's so flexible for your needs. All lessons as well, all the 108 lessons have a video too. And the video is a complete presentation of the entire lesson. And it says here by a food and nutrition teacher. Well, it was actually me. And the teacher, me, goes through all the slides, asks questions, set the tasks, leaving a pause for pupils to answer as we go through, and then discuss the answers too. And I think you could use these videos in a number of ways. So first of all, you could use them in class with pupils following and answering the questions, and it's guided by the teacher. Secondly, it could be used for independent study, where you've got the downloadable worksheet, and you can maybe use that as homework where appropriate. It could be part of a CPD session in your school or perhaps in your academy chain, and it could be help to cover new food skills perhaps, or explain how or explore how concepts are explained and delivered. Or perhaps it could be used even as a cover lesson with the worksheet and quizzes to support. It's up to you how you use them, but it's another rich resource that you can delve into and support your teaching. I'm really pleased as well, there's a great emphasis on assessment too. So each lesson has lots of different assessment points which you can use in your teaching. So these are a starter quiz, and that's available as a worksheet which you can download. And it really gives you kind of an idea of sort of prior learning before the lesson. And the answer sheet is always provided, which I think is a really good idea. And there are quizzes found in each of the lessons. There's also an exit quiz that you can imagine too. And again, there's an answer one for that too. There's the checks for understanding. Remember I mentioned those throughout the lesson, and you can see one on the slide here called sources of energy. And before that slide, it would have been talking about energy provided by different types of foods and drinks, for example. So we're just going back and checking that understanding. And then there are different tasks at the end of those different learning cycles too. And lastly, there's worksheets which you can download, and the worksheets have all the tasks from all the lessons in that, and it's a great way, it's in a pupil friendly format that you can download and use, and hopefully it's very easy for them to complete too. I'm going to hand over to Frances now, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the recipes that we've included.
Thanks, Roy. Yeah, this bit I particularly wanted to do actually because I absolutely love the recipes in these lessons. We've got a lot of recipes that we've got on Food Effective Life, but what we've done with these is we've really thought about what it is that pupils like to make and what they might want to potentially make at home, the things that they've seen out and about, based on some research that we did a few years ago on by the British Nutrition Foundation. So really getting people's ideas, but as well as that, thinking about practical food skills and progression. So in primary, 6 out of the 12 lessons are practical, and in secondary, 8 of the 12 are practical. Now, by practical, it could mean that we've got an actual recipe that they're going to be making, and that's what in most cases these 12 lessons, sorry, 6 or 8 lessons are. But also, we're very conscious of the fact that knowledge should be taught ideally through practical activity, which we need to try and get away from having sort of standalone theory lessons or practical lessons. Actually, pupils learn much better by doing, and you know all that. So what we want to do is try and get that knowledge across through all the different practical activities. So that could be making a recipe, or it could be doing a sensory activity, it could be doing a tasting. There's lots of other things that they could be doing that is a practical hands-on activity. Key Stage 1, all lessons and therefore recipes are non-heat. So we follow the Design Technology Association's guidance on that. But when you get to Key Stage 2, that's when we start to introduce heat. But what we wanted to do was think about the practicalities of a primary classroom. We understand that a lot of primary classrooms won't have the facilities that a secondary school would have. So they may have some hobs that they could use. They may have access to the school kitchen, or maybe they've just got a baby belling that they move around the different classrooms. So we've tried to think about how these recipes can be made in a practical way. We've also included suggestions for making them with an air fryer, and also a party pan, so an electric countertop frying pan. So lots of different ways that heat could be used. We've also thought about recipes that would use the oven, the grill and the hob. So again, showing different food skills and different progression. We've followed the national curriculum guidance to say that recipes should be predominantly savoury, and we've also included one sweet recipe per year group, and there's a really nice example of that on the screen, which is for fruit scone wedges. So we wanted to get something which used a sort of traditional rubbing in method, because that's a really nice skill for the pupils to learn. But we want to do something a little bit different, just making traditional scones. So this is a lovely wedge, and it also includes fresh canned or frozen fruit. And this example here is pear and cinnamon, and this was a really lovely recipe. So food skill progression, that's been built into the lesson. So Roy was saying that we're going right from Key Stage 1 to the end of Key Stage 3, and obviously practical food skills and abilities are very different from age 5 up to age 14. But what we've been very careful to do is base our progression on research evidence and also published frameworks. And we have got a framework on Food Facts of Life, which covers the sort of the skills and knowledge for practical activities and also theory as well for primary level. But we also use some other things that were available to us. And particularly there's some research around there around pupil motor skill development, and actually physically what pupils can do at different stages of and ages and phases. So what they can do when they're very young compared to what they can do when they're getting into their teens. The recipes are found within each lesson. So they're within the slide deck. They're also on the pupil worksheet, and then the teacher additional information. So they are available in lots of different ways. And the slide deck also goes through the food skills for each recipe. And what we've done is we've included some practical food skills videos within the slide decks, which the teachers can show the pupils. They can use them as perhaps independent learning. And some teachers may actually find them quite useful to have a look at themselves. If you're new to teaching food, they're actually quite a good way just to identify sort of the right way to be able to teach something like the bridge and the claw and knife skills safely. So those are all there that will support you and your teaching. Like all of the rest of the resources, the recipes are flexible and they can be edited. We wanted to make sure that teachers could adapt what they were doing for their own setting, for their pupils, their particular needs, but also for seasonality. So we've got a lovely recipe which is around a seasonal salad. And depending on what time of year you're making it, your pupils might want to choose to use seasonal ingredients that are available in the winter, which will obviously be different to the ingredients that are available in the summer. So there's some nice flexibility included. We've also tried to include opportunities for pupils to be creative, because the other important thing is to make sure that it's not just about learning how to make a recipe and following that recipe. That, of course, is important, and understanding how to follow the sequence of a recipe, but also to how to adapt recipes for their own tastes and needs or other people's tastes and needs. So being creative, thinking about different ingredients. Most of them are plant rich. So that means that we've used a lot of plant-based ingredients, but we have also provided options for fish and meat to be added as well. The recipes also link to other learning. So thinking about teaching theory through practical activities, they might link to health or food origins, or also thinking about the social context and the dimension of food. And there's a couple of really nice examples on the screen there. So we've got the jollof rice, and that slide is talking about the symbol of jollof rice in West Africa, but it's also talking about a little bit around health and saying that this particular recipe is actually very nice with coleslaw, which helps people get their 5 a day. And we've also included a really nice range of recipes. So we've talked about heat and non-heat, different types of ways of cooking the food, but we've also thought about celebrating diversity and inclusivity. And on that recipe, that slide back deck there's one which is a paska, which is a lovely Easter bread from Ukraine. So thinking about foods from around the world. Thanks, Roy. Additional materials, we wanted to go through these. So these are provided for teachers. These are support for teachers. And we've included some additional advice and support in these. So we've included the recipe. We've also included the food skills. We've included some practical cooking or cooking practicalities. So again, this links back to perhaps the setting or the classroom or the food space that you've got to use in your school. So we've included some advice around perhaps allowing the pupils to cook in pairs. So that means you're going to reduce the amount of equipment that you need, but also the amount of ingredients you might need, and that might help to reduce the cost. We've also suggested on some recipes that you might want to provide an array of ingredients that the pupils could choose from, so that helps with their creativity. But also as well, depending on their skill level, maybe what your intent is for the lesson, you might want to pre-prepare some of the ingredients that the pupils just go and collect those, and then they use them to make their salad or their layered dessert or whatever it is that they're going to be making. We have suggested some modifications, and this is where we've suggested you might want to add meat or fish into the recipe, or we've talked about using different types of starchy carbohydrates, so noodles or rice or potatoes. So lots of other different things that you could think about for the recipe for your own pupils in your setting. There's some advice about setting up the classroom. We've done those as blogs. So we've got one as a primary and also for secondary. Particularly for primary, we thought that was really important because it is quite a different subject to teach in primary. And there are certain things that you need to make sure that you're being careful about with regards to food hygiene and safety. And thinking about that, we've got some information about risk assessments. Now, we haven't included risk assessments in the resources because we believe that it's important to go to sort of the national source for advice around health and safety and food hygiene in schools, particularly around science, DT and art lessons. And that's CLEAPS. And most schools, in fact, I think it's about 98% of schools in England are members of CLEAPS. If you don't know about CLEAPS and whether you're a member, please speak to your science team or your head of year or head of food, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction because you'll be able to get risk assessments from them. Mentioned a little bit around health and safety as well, particularly whether adult supervision is required. And then finally, we put some information about ingredients. Now, what we haven't done is identified specific allergenic ingredients within the recipes because we wanted them to be flexible and editable. As soon as the recipes change, that means the allergenic ingredients might have changed. But what we have done is we've identified and tried to remind teachers that it's really important to make sure that you're aware of those pupils in your classroom who have got particular allergies or intolerances to ingredients, or may not be able to use ingredients for cultural or ethical reasons. So very important that you are aware of that. But also just to think about some of the alternatives that you could use. So if you've got a pupil that has got a gluten intolerance, you could use a gluten-free flour, for example. And then also we've reminded teachers to make sure that you're having a look at ready prepared foods or packages or bottles or cans, because there may be some sort of hidden ingredients that you're not expecting to be in there. Or if you're using a different brand of a product, their ingredients might be different. So one of the things that we noticed was tomato ketchup. Now, we obviously haven't used that very often in recipes, but we have used it in one particularly. And the different brands of tomato ketchup will use different ingredients. One uses celery, which is an allergenic ingredient. So just being aware that you need to have a look at these things. So stock cubes, for example, will have or may have gluten in. So just made that point on the additional materials. Okay, thank you, Roy. So what Roy's going to do now is he's going to give you a demonstration of the website. So I will hand over to Roy.
Brilliant. Thanks, Frances. Thanks very much. And it's interesting to note about the recipes that we also, the 60 recipes, we also assess them against the Eat Well guide. And over 90% of them have fruit and vegetables in, and they really score really, really highly. So we were really keen to make sure that we followed the best practice, that if we were talking about eating a healthy, balanced diet, that the style of recipe and overall the offer actually meets that evidence too. So I'm going to show you just a quick demonstration now of the website. And this is the homepage of the Oak National Academy. So I'm just going to change, and there's a little delay from me actually changing over. So I'll go a little bit slow, but this is the home screen of it. I'm going to go through the different ways that you can access the information, because although the information is the same, there are slightly different nuances that you can get to. I'm also going to very, very quickly show how your pupils could use the website too. So the first thing on the homepage, obviously you could type in a keyword or a topic that you might be interested. So nutrition, healthy eating, sustainability, sensory work, whatever that might be. But I quite like just to go straight in, and let's say I'm a former secondary school teacher, so I'm going to go to Key Stage 3. All the different lessons that Oak provides are on here, and there are quite a few. Cooking and nutrition has its own separate area, so we're going to click on that as we go through, and then what that will do is then show you all of the units that are available for Key Stage 3. If I scroll down very slowly, I know there's a slight delay, a slight lag. So what you can see here are the 12 different units that are available over Key Stage 3. So 4 for each year group. And I can look at them all together as a year, or using the filter just in the top right hand side, I could look at them as just year 7, or perhaps I could just use year 8 and year 9. And hopefully what you'll see here as well is that we've thought about the progression as we run through. So if I do unit 1, you see that's called independent and confident cooking. If I then go down to unit 5, which is the start of year 8, is called cooking techniques and proficiency. And if I then go down to unit number 9, which is the start of year 9, is called accurate and precise cooking. So we've really tried to think about giving a flavour to that progression. The same thing could happen, for example, with where food comes from. Number 3 is food origins. Number 7 is more sustainable diets. And then we go down to number 11, global food challenges. So it's all there for you. As I mentioned, the threads that you can go through. So you might just want to focus on units perhaps to do with consumer awareness, or perhaps food culture, or perhaps food preparation and nutrition. There's quite a lot of those ones within there, or perhaps healthy eating too. So that's the way that you can access all of these. So you quite simply go into one. So I'm going to go into year 9, let's say global food challenges, and click on that. And we can see here for global food challenges unit, there are 3 lessons. Now at the top, you can download the whole unit, all the resources, which is great. So you just click on that, and then it gives you a way of then clicking in and getting those information, getting those resources. I can also share those resources, and also I can save it if I'm logged in. So I would really suggest that you sign up to the Oak website. It can save you a lot of time, particularly when you find your favorites. I'm going to go into this one, fish strips, street wraps, just as an example. And what you can do here is, again, you can download all of the resources for this lesson, all one, or you can even share the activities with your pupils, and you can add notes and share them too. Again, if you're signed in. And as we go through, what we can see is there are the different lesson slides that you can download and use, and I can just click through them here. You can see the way that the Google Slides just work on the screen here. I've then got the different lesson details, or the key learning points. And I really like that all the lessons have a teacher tip as well, which is quite handy sometimes. I do like top tips. There's also keywords, and again, the keywords are in bold within the lesson. And another good way of dealing with some interesting concepts is a common misconception. And there's a common misconception for each of the lessons too. So that's a nice way that perhaps you could introduce the lesson with. There's also the video, as I mentioned, so you can play that to your heart's content. And there's a transcript. And then there are the worksheets. So that's the worksheet for this lesson. Then we've got the starter quiz. Luckily, it's got the answers on that one. And then we've got the exit quiz too. on there too. And then there's the additional information which Francis mentioned for the teacher too. So I think there's quite a wealth of information that's available there, and you can download all of those resources just a click of a switch, which I think is fantastic. So if I go home again, back to this, so that's the way I can go into it, just looking at teaching resources by picking a key stage, picking a year group, and then looking at the units and lessons. I can also go in through curriculum plans too, which again is a nice way of doing it. So my subject, I'm cooking and nutrition. This time I'm going to go to primary and I click view. Now what this does is just present the information in a slightly different way. So we can see the different unit sequencing going on from year 1, 2, 3 and so forth. And again, what I can do, I can just focus on a year group at a time, which is quite handy to have. I can see that going through. There's also the explainer. And again, this is a really powerful piece of information that's been produced about the aims and purposes of the OAK curriculum and how it's been put together. So if you do have 5 minutes, I'd really suggest going and have a look at that, and you can download that to the curriculum plan too, which again is very, really helpful. So if I was just interested in, let's say, year 5, and I'm interested in creative cooking, I'm going to click on that. And then to the side here, it opens up this little bar and it's telling me about what threads are in this. So not only is it dealing with cooking, it's also got food hygiene and safety. Obviously, there's the preparation and cooking, and it also deals with sensory evaluation. There's a short description. There's a really powerful why this, why now. So it's sort of saying, why have we put this into the curriculum and why have we put it in at this stage? I think that's really helpful. So if you're writing your own schemes of work, schemes of learning, that might be useful for you too. There's also an overview about the different lessons in the unit, as well as the prior knowledge requirements. Click the button here, see lessons in the unit, and that will come here. And I think we're going to have a look at we've already seen the fruit scone wedges. So we're going into Mexican pockets. And here we've got the same view which we saw earlier. This one also, as you can see, just under the slides, also has some video clips too, which you can use. And again, you can see here, if I go through the slides, they're a very similar style. So there's some built-in consistency through all the lessons too, which I think is, absolutely terrific to do. Again, the lesson details, my good favorite teacher tip, and then some keywords, misconception, video, and then all of the worksheets that you might use too. So I think there's a huge, rich sort of supply of lessons here for you to use. There's 108 lessons for you to access. And if you're going to use this with your pupils too, pupils can go to the website, they can click on pupils, and then they can click on find a lesson. So let's say they're in year 8, for example, and then they can click on cooking and nutrition. Now, what I would have probably done is to go through that, and then I would have then probably cut and paste the web link out. So they haven't got to go through that sort of link there. And then I might just go into more sustainable diets. And I can think, okay, well, we're gonna do a quick task around plant rich and diverse. So what you've got here for the pupil then is an introduction. So there's a worksheet which they can download and they can say, I'm ready. Then they've got a starter quiz, which is an interactive quiz they can go through. Now, I'm not sure whether I should be answering this live tonight, but let's have a quick go, shall we? So let's try all that. Ah, God, so I'm never going to learn, am I? So there's the starter quiz. Then there's the video. So the idea being here is that they've downloaded the worksheet and they could watch parts of the video and they could then answer the questions as they go through. And then there's an exit quiz too. So again, another way that they can check that check their learning too. There's even like do you need a hint at the bottom too. So hopefully you'll see there's a whole range of amazing lessons that you can access free of charge from the OAK website. Great, thanks, Francis. I'm going to hand back to you now.
Thanks, Roy. And it's just wonderful to be able to see that live. Hopefully you've found that useful. And from my point of view, having worked on the resources from sort of the back end, as you say, to actually see what they look like on the website is really nice to see. Okay, so we're just going to finish off very quickly thinking about next steps and thinking about what we think would be helpful for you to consider moving forward with the Oak cooking and nutrition curriculum. So just thinking about being pragmatic and realistic. We can't do everything. So just thinking about what you can do in the time that you've got available, and also the facilities and the budget you've got available too. One thing we would suggest is you audit what you currently do and identify any gaps. And on the Food Effective Life website, there's a really nice audit tool that you can use to help audit your curriculum and then actually identify what Oak or other resources you can use to support a new curriculum if you've got any gaps. Have a look at the website, the Oak website, look at the primary and or the secondary, become familiar with it. And then also try out some of the recipes and the lessons and get a taste of it, see really what is available to you. And then also use the tools that we've got available on Food Effective Life. And so there's some really interesting different ones that we've done for you this time. So we've got an interactive training and resources decision tree, and that will help plan your training and use the resources from Oak and also Food Effective Life. There is a curriculum planner decision tree, and there's one for key stages 1, 2 and 3, and that will help you plan your cooking and nutrition curriculum, and then also your audit will fit into that as well. And then that will help you focus on what you want your curriculum to look like. So whether you want it to be balanced, so that's covering health eating, cooking, where food comes from in a balanced way, or whether you want to have more of a focus on cooking or more of a focus on healthy eating, and then also the number of lessons that you have. So that is, I think, a really helpful tool that will help you build your own curriculum. And then also there is the Oak curriculum and lessons overview, which Roy showed you, which has got direct links. And then consider your own CPD. And we do actually have a session next week, which is around planning your CPD around the Oak resources. And we've got an interactive tool that will help you audit your own knowledge, skills and confidence, and then from that plan your CPD. So we do hope that you have a look at these resources and then use them to think about how you can support your teaching and learning. Thanks, Roy. And there we go. Join us for the next training session. And here we are. So here are all the list of the training that we're going to be doing. So as we said right at the beginning, this is a series of 10 live events. And we're going to be going from today up until the beginning of February in 2026. So obviously today we're getting started with Oak, and the recording will be available for this soon. And then the next one next week is about mapping your own path, and that's around the CPD. Then particularly we're going to be focusing on some which will be suitable for more for primary teachers and more for secondary teachers. And you'll see that those are on the two dates. So we've got 2 on the 21st, so that's at 4 o'clock and then 7, and 2 on the 11th, again 4 o'clock and 7.